This year's Europa League final has been won by Tottenham Hotspur 1-0 against Man United. And I'm going to say this, I actually predicted and felt pretty confident that Spurs were going to beat United today. I've just not seen enough from United this season to have much hope from them. And what I found really ironic about Spurs' win tonight is how Ange Postecoglou the performance was, because tonight, Spurs' approach was to probe United, was to ask Man United questions. And those questions were, can you play through us? Yeah? Can you break us down? Are you brave enough to take the risks to put men forwards to try and catch us out defensively? And these were many questions asked, which Man United, as they've done throughout the season, continue to fail to answer. And it was pretty ironic that Spurs played such a, different way compared to most approaches they've used throughout the season. Attack heavy, play forwards, front-footed type of football. But as Postecoglou said himself, listen, in my second year, I always win. He said that with so much confidence and certainty that a lot of people didn't really, respect too much at the time. But I have to say, even though I'm a Chelsea fan, I've always kind of liked Postecoglou. I've always respected him. I like stories from managers like this. He did his thing in South Asia before he came here. He's a bit of a character. He's got some confidence behind himself. The Spurs players clearly like him, clearly rate him. And in a way, it was a bit of a masterstroke to approach this game from a defensive point of view. To ask Spurs team, how much do you want this? Yeah? How bad do you want to win? How bad are you sick and tired of being a laughingstock? Sick and tired of always being on the receiving end of losses. And I think a lot of credit has to go towards Postecoglou for going against his philosophy today, for prioritizing the win at all costs. Managers don't always tap into that. This is a game full of human decisions, and getting the decisions right at the right time is what separates the winners from the losers. And I think tonight was most definitely the right approach from Spurs to soak up the pressure. Yeah, to hit United on the counter-attack. They clearly did their research. Scoring a goal from Brennan Johnson, who has very, very strong movement in this league. Some have even likened it to a young Raheem Sterling. His pace, his timing of his runs and releases. Him being the match winner today, scoring a goal which I think was a well-crafted goal from the Spurs, a goal that reflected what they've been working upon in the training ground. United have been a little susceptible to those little underlaps at times. Sarr finds himself completely unmarked down the left-hand side. He puts in a deep in-swinging cross to the far post, which Brennan Johnson is completely unmarked, connects to that. A bit of a fumble, but Johnson gets the rebound afterwards. And Spurs played very diligently. They played tactically, they played responsibly, they played like many other teams have played throughout the years who have won things and approached things in a very, very mature and pretty anti-Spurs manner. I think after this final, if there's one fan base who's probably in complete disillusion right now, it's Man United fans. I think if Spurs had lost this, no disrespect, I think people might have expected that. I think for United to lose this game now, wow, the connotations behind this defeat, wow, this is going to be incredible. This has affected their transfer business this summer. This has affected the type of player and caliber they can bring into the team to improve things right now. Yes, they do have Europa League football. Actually, no. They've got nothing right now to show for it. Their gamble of prioritizing this final did not work out. I think that Amorim was completely surprised by Spurs' defensive approach. And you could see that when Richarlison is basically playing as a left back and he's going up against Amad Diallo, who, wow, Diallo was not prepared for this final. Some have said that the idea of Diallo is better than the reality. I can kind of understand that. But I think what really hurts wingers like this, especially the young wingers, is when you do not have any support your way. It wasn't enough to just have a wing back, one of the attacking mids doubling up, because Spurs were ready. Spurs had one of their wingers dropping deep at all times. They put in unreal work, I have to say. I'm sure Richarlison had the most tackles throughout this entire game. When you're getting doubled up to him like that, and there's no other options to connect you, There was no wide centre-backs pushing really high up to form triangles, or one of the midfield players, leaving their central positions to go out wide to form a 3v2. It makes your life incredibly hard. And if you guys notice, this was a final full of crosses throughout, and you normally tend to see crosses played in finals because teams don't want to lose the middle of the field. Teams don't want to get penetrated in those areas, because if you do, 2-3 passes splits open in defense, and you're in behinds, and you're losing, and it's that quick, yeah. So the fact that Spurs approached this final in the manner they did was a bit of a tactical masterstroke from Postecoglou today that really surprised the opposition, because United, I think in the first half, and I think most of the second half until maybe the subs of Xerxes and Garnacho came on, and there was like a little bit of something, at least the introduction of those subs allowed maybe the fullbacks or the wing-backs to get on the ball a bit more, to put in crosses, to have more men going inside the box. Outside of that, I think Spurs were in absolute control in this final tonight. Absolute control from the first minute to the last minute. They believe in their game plan. The players trusted each other. They believe in themselves. You saw some superb... I have to admit, I have to be impartial when I'm doing these reviews. Yeah, I'm impartial. I'm not here to do banter just for like cheap laughs all the time. I'm a football man, end of the day. But you saw some great defending. I mean, Van der Ven off the line against Højlund's. I thought Højlund's header didn't have enough power behind it, but Van der Ven showed some incredible acrobatic defending to clear that off the line then. The last moments at the end, Vicario, superb save against Luke Shaw, probably the best, most dangerous moment for Man United in this entire game. And he pulled off the save in the moment when it mattered the most. And right near the end too, of course, a bit of a kerfuffle between Garnacho and Casemiro. Casemiro, I think if he left after Garnacho, it could have been a more interesting situation at the time compared to the elder taking control of that moment. But outside of that, I'm really struggling to think of many moments of danger that United were able to produce against Spurs today. Again, as I said earlier, the connotations behind this defeat are absolutely disastrous for United, for the fans, for Amorim, who really needs restructuring, strengthening in this team to get his ideas working. You know what? I'm of the belief where if you go for these project managers, you have to fully back the projects here, because it does work. When Amorim first took over Sporting Lisbon, it was a very slow start as well until he got in what he needed. It's just how the game works. If you're going to commit to a guy like this, with all the money you paid to sign him to begin with, I think it would be incredibly cheap to discard him right now and then bring in someone else. Because who are you going to bring in to replace Amorim? Are you going to go back to being this yo-yo team where, it's forever getting the results manager, never being impressed, because results managers, they help you maintain what you have to maintain, but you never elevate past that. You need the ideas guy. But then when you bring in the ideas guy, you're not executing the ideas good enough. You're not bringing in the required players, the key guys you need. Case in point, look at Erik ten Hag. They brought all the players around the main key players they needed, and they needed the midfield. Without that midfield, Ten Hag was going to do absolutely nothing. And that was proven in the end. I think Amorim is a great manager. He's done big things at Sporting Lisbon. He's won many trophies. This is a big, cup-winning manager who's really built his credentials over many years at Sporting Lisbon to be respected and revered. But there has to be a case of humility now from United fans, where you have to accept the levels of your club right now as deeper than just players not being good enough, X, Y, Z. It's more of a structural issue at this point in time. It's going to take you guys maybe a full season to fully make sense of that. And in a way, if I'm being honest, I actually think maybe not getting Champions League football might be best for you guys, because it allows you to have more time away from the pressure of having a CL campaign alongside challenging for the league or challenging for European positions. I think United are not at that level just yet to be able to maintain both. I think what they really need now is a bit of a clear out. What they need now is a restructuring around Amorim's ideas. I don't think that means you have to sign every young talent, every nonsense talent from Serie A that agents are pushing your way, which United have a habit of doing at the moment. I simply think it just comes down to going back to basics, looking for the right responsible market opportunities. Case in point, Options have existed. Lacroix, use him as an example. He went to Crystal Palace. This was a defender that would have been perfect for United. His pace in behind would have given you guys recovery pace and allowed you to push your lines higher up, which is something that Amorim likes to have. Those options of the market do exist, but it comes down to what I think, in my opinion, the guys who run the show, the guys who make the executive decisions. There clearly is not strong direction. Yeah, there isn't strong planning. There isn't strong executive decision making. I don't think United needs to spend $500 million to get back to the top. Maybe over the course of a few years, that might be the case if you want to start challenging again for the league. But at the moment, I think you have to go back to basics. You have to strip some of the players away. I would get rid of Casemiro. I mean, the fact that, you have to rely upon him doesn't really say too much. Didn't really offer too much in midfield today. Couldn't really offer too much in midfield today because he knows the moment he leaves those central areas, United are getting caught out because he cannot catch up to anyone on the counter-attack. And that was proven in the second half when Spurs should have even made it 2-0 when Udogie played the ball in behind to find Solanke. And Solanke's first touch was absolutely horrendous and away from goal. But this is the issue United have. There's options in the market where you can sign the right profile, the right tactical role. Too often we look at midfield players being 6s and 8s. That means nothing because what really matters is the role they play. Do you need a deep line playmaker? Do you need a ball-winning mid? A guy is more of an anchor. That is the way to see this team balance. And at the moment, when you're relying upon Casemiro, who's got no legs, and Bruno Fernandes, the guy who's playing hero ball 24/7, hero ball when you don't even have a striker to hero to is absolute nonsense. It's not really saying much about how far you can go as a team. There's so many structural issues and weaknesses. If I was at United, I'm making bold decisions. I'm saying, listen, if a Saudi club wants Bruno, I'm going to accept the sale money, get him off the wage bill, use that profit to cater towards a team that is more built in Amorim's ideas. You don't need to have 11 of the best players in the world to become a great team. The game doesn't work like that. You get rid of Casemiro, you get rid of these types of guys. I'd even say goodbye to your Maguires, your Luke Shaws. It doesn't matter that they've had good individual seasons. The reality is you lost the Europa League final and you were 17th in the league, for God's sake. So it doesn't matter that a few individuals were good when the whole team is worse for it. This is the level of cutthroatness United have to show now. And I think this can only happen now because you've lost the Europa League. I think this is going to be a blessing in disguise for Man United in the future. I think if this was Champions League football, I think they're going back to doing the same things they're doing. Now, after this loss, after being in this reality, it's going to kickstart some ruthless changes and cuts right now. So let's see how things go. But anyway, out of respect, because they've won a European Cup, I'm going to say congrats to Tottenham for winning. Congrats to Postecoglou, who I'm probably happier for compared to Spurs, to be honest with you, for proving the naysayers wrong and coming with surprises today, which made Spurs the team in absolute control throughout this entire game. And yeah, if he does leave Tottenham at the end of this season, at least with his head held high and his CV looking hella strong. So that's me for today, my friends. Share your thoughts and opinions, and I'll catch you all very soon on NiiNiiFC. Cool.